Hi, Ian Roberts and Mastering Composition. A couple of weeks ago I added that demo video and it was seen by 3 times as many people as saw the shorter video. So this week's video on perspective is a little longer than normal because to do perspective justice it really takes some considerations. One of the things that was interesting, there was a lot of comments from people saying, yeah, perspective, I'd really like that. And somebody joked about that idea of students having 4 or 5 books on perspective, because it's one of those things that when you open them and you look at them, they just seem sort of perplexing, kind of impenetrable. Sort of you see diagrams like this. And if you were to look at last week's painting and analyze it in the manner that you normally see perspective books, it would look something like this. So using construction, you've got this kind of complexity. You've got all these things moving out to a vanishing point 1 out here, the other side of the chair to a vanishing point way out here, number 2, the boxes moving back to vanishing point 3, and all the lines in the hardwood back to vanishing point 4. I mean, it's complicated to do it that way and completely impractical when you're just doing a painting. But in representational painting, we need it. It's sort of a foundational skill. So I'm going to simplify it down and give you 2 very practical techniques to practice, deliberate practice, so that you can sort of get a handle on it and master it. And it's not for solving, what I'm talking about today is not for solving complex problems like this. I mean, that's a different issue. But one tip I could say is sometimes buildings are not so far off being flat on, and you can just put them flat on and simplify the perspective problem. But we can't do that all the time. So when we're drawing and painting, we have 3 fundamental forms: cubes, cylinders, and spheres. And spheres we don't need to worry about in terms of perspective. Cylinders, we have the ellipse at the top that's in perspective. But the thing is, that circle or ellipse falls inside of a square that goes back to the vanishing point on the horizon, just like a cube. So in fact, by learning the cube, we can master perspective. Now, ideally, I'd go out and make one, 4 by 4, cut 4 inches long, some white gesso. But I have 6 photographs that you can use in this video up until then. So here's the thing. Learning something like perspective is a part of deliberate practice. You need to slow down and embrace it and really spend some time with it. If you're just trying to, it'll maybe get better quickly, it's just something you just got to slow down and enjoy it. There's a lovely line by the poet Mary Oliver, "Attention is the beginning of devotion." So the most important part of it here, when you're doing these exercises, these 2 exercises that I'm going to give you, is that you get the feeling that the sense of the lines you're drawing are carving 3-dimensional. The cube is becoming a 3-dimensional form in space, that you're not just trying to craft some lines on the 2-dimensional surface that looks like maybe could be a cube. You're actually visualizing that when you're doing both sets of exercises. You're visualizing this crafting of space. Now, the first technique, and many of you will have heard of this and even done it before, I use it all the time when I'm plein air painting and whenever I'm working from life, or even from a photograph sometimes, really. But here's the thing. The main tool of the first 2 exercises is this. You lay whatever it is, your brush or your pencil, you lay it along the line of what you're looking at, and then you drop it. So here's the thing. You want the picture or your computer screen to be vertical, and you want your piece of paper to be just below you. Or what you're looking at out in the world and your canvas right here, you want to find the angle and then drop it down and draw it in. Maybe double check it. Or if you're working in a painting, you maybe do this, and then you just keep your shoulders even and your head, and you just come over to your canvas and you get the angle. Now, I've seen students doing this as they move from here to here, and then obviously if you're moving the angle, it won't work. But it's a very useful technique, and you'll see, you can build up everything in terms of perspective with that technique. So I'm going to show that to you now. So here's the photograph again, and I have it gridded because it actually helps you to see some of the angles relative to things as opposed to just, the whole image. But you can see that there's a line there. You can lay your pencil along it, bring it down. There's a line there, there's a line there, there's a line there, there's a line that runs across both those and all those, and they're all going back to the same vanishing point, and you can just lay your pencil along them or brush along them and figure out what that angle is and bring it down to your paper or canvas. And then, of course, they're doing exactly the same on this side, right? All of these. You've got lots of reference points for it. And then the same thing with all the lines here, all going back to the same vanishing point. Just lay your pencil along it, get an idea of where they are, and then brush it in or draw it in. So I'm going to show you an exercise on how to do that now. So I lay the pencil along the edge, and then I just bring it straight down, not turning it. So let's say this is the angle. Then I double check it. Seems about right. We're going to need a vertical. These things always want to stay vertical. And then we're going to do the second angle here. I'm just going to double check it. And then let's say this is the bottom there. Put in that angle. Just double check it. And then this one's important because the actual dimension of what creates a cube is pretty specific. If it's out here, it's no longer a cube, right? And then the one on the bottom here. So you see, it's just, here's the thing that I would say is I'm going to give you 6 of these, and I would say just do them slowly, slowly, with a lot of attention. See, that's a little squeezed, right? Feels a little squeezed for a cube. And you just have to kind of feel where that point is. That's looking a little better. And then we lay the line along the back. And then just double check it. And then lay the line here. And we get our cube. So here's the thing that I want you to do as you're doing this. I want you to be thinking, not about am I getting these lines right on the two-dimensional surface to sort of look like a cube. I want you to think as you're drawing this that you're carving this into the paper. You're manufacturing a three-dimensional illusion. And the most important part to be thinking about that in two-point perspective is that these 3 lines are always working in concert back to one vanishing point. And these 3 lines always working together as one back to a vanishing point. And when you start to feel the sense of those lines working together, and I'm going to give you 6 cubes to do that, and start getting the feel for that, then you'll start to be carving it on the picture plane and not just thinking about lines on a two-dimensional surface. So I have 6 photographs of the cube. You can make your own, of course, but if you don't have one, 6 photographs that you can practice on. I would just stop the video at each one and then just slowly craft it angle by angle and feel yourself crafting the three-dimensional space of that cube. And it will shift your perspective on perspective. You'll start to own it. This cube is about the same as the chair in the photograph in terms of the angles we're seeing. This one we have a much higher view. Here we come down much lower and 2 of the planes are very narrow. And now we're coming down below. We can't see the top of the cube. And here again, we've moved over to the side. This might be looking at a building perhaps. And this just a little sliver of the top edge. Now in exercise 2, what I want you to do is without the cube itself, I want you to draw a number. I just want you to keep doing this. Just do it as like a doodling exercise where you're trying to get this sense of carving the shape, the rectangular shape, and then say, well, that's not really a rectangle. this is either too long or this is too short. So if we just extend that a little bit and pull this line over to here, I'll just erase it so it's clear. We get something we say, oh yeah, okay, that's more like a cube. And then you might try it down low, as if you're down low, looking at let's say it would be like looking at a building, right? So a building might look like this from down below. And this one here is again, maybe perhaps a little bit long here. And so I want you just to be thinking both in terms of manufacturing that three-dimensionality and also to get the sense of the cubeness of that this face is the same as this face is the same as this face. Then you could try one where you've got a very small top plane. And you're seeing that these are all working together back to one vanishing point. These are all working together back to a vanishing point, perhaps outside of the picture plane. And then you might just try one, just keep working, sort of thinking about different ways that you might draw a cube. See, this one would have a very small face there. I might almost go out of the paper. These are going back to here, so this would be coming. See, you can kind of go back like this visually, and then say, oh, okay, and then that line would come in like that. More over there. Now I've made a complete mess of it, but you get the idea. Just keep doing that until you kind of build into your thinking process how these things function. These three angles of 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, how they're functioning together on all these different angles until, here, let's do one that's disappearing really radically back to a vanishing point here. Just keep thinking about that thing so that when you're confronted with something, you can either lay a pencil along it and find the angle, or you'll just be having a better sense of how all those three angles work together. And once you've got a good sense of structuring that cube on the paper, then adding the things like windows and doors and so on, all just fall into line with exactly that same principle. So that's it for this week. I do hope you found it helpful. Perspective was a complex problem to try to do in 6 minutes. And next week, we're going to be looking at greens and how to mix green. So until then, I hope you have a great week. I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye for now.